Hi, I'm Jamie. This is Dead Dodge Garage, and this is my Ram truck. There are many like it. Actually, there aren't any like it. If you somehow don't know, I built this truck on the channel in like a 2 or 3 week span between bringing it home and then loading my Demon on the back and driving all the way to Tennessee. That was a pretty crazy adventure, which involved losing a drag race in front of thousands of people on the internet. 9 out of 10 would lose again. Anyway, since that crazy, epic 6,000 plus mile road trip, this thing's basically just been beaten and abused like a rented step mule or whatever. I've had many cars on the back of it, some of which certainly did not belong there, at least in terms of weight. Did you know that battery acid leaking on your decking will do that? It's actually kind of cool, but I wish it would stop. I sealed this section with diesel by leaving a jerry can that leaked here for like 3 months? I don't know, quite a while. Anyway, I probably should have just done that to the whole deck. Looks pretty nice. I love this truck. It's been a completely faithful machine. And aside from that time that I tried sending the fan into the radiator, it's been 100% reliable. In previous videos on the truck, I've discussed a bunch of the upgrades I have in mind. Today, we're not doing any of those. No, today we're going to continue to ignore everything this truck really needs, kick the can down the road on the major improvements, but do a couple small things that will improve the livability of this truck. Here's a big one. Apparently my shiny brand new toolbox leaks inside, so all the spare parts I left in here, just in case I needed them at a racetrack at some point, are now swimming in this horrible rusty pond. My spare drive shaft looks like absolute garbage now, so that's just tremendous. My spare axle shafts, same story. So, we're gonna fix that. We're gonna add some drainage, I think. And we'll probably tighten the bolts that are holding this box onto the truck because it creaks going down the road and that's very annoying. Oh, that's fine. This was just a like new drive shaft for the Barracuda. And what were some very nice spare A-body axle shafts with good bearings and dual drilled pattern. Nice long studs. I'm sure Mopar Joe would love if I just pitched these in the garbage, but I'm not gonna do that. We'll put them somewhere. And maybe someday they'll get used. I put this cardboard down trying to protect my new box and keep things from banging around in here and making horrible noises, but yeah, this is gross. So I guess that wasn't a great idea. Aww. I almost certainly can't fix whatever's letting water into the toolbox, but I can drill holes in it. Although a second hand would help. Come on. Perhaps a couple more. There you go. Fixed forever. Turned my holes into low spots with a hammer. And I added two at the back, you know, for high speed going up mountain drainage. Or for when it's parked in the driveway wrong. Went through and snugged all the bolts, except for the impossible to reach one that's right in the corner for some reason. And it's way better. I don't even hear any creaking anymore. Well, one thing's for sure. That is fixed forever, and it'll never be a problem again. This cab looks like garbage. And from the beginning, I always intended to replace it, or at least replace the doors, the fenders, the hood, the grille, the front bumper, all of the things attached to it. In the doing, I'd be backdating it to a 70s style truck, which would be cool. Being a 92 Dodge, this is the second to last year for this early tin grill style cab. Yeah, there are a couple differences. The dash is different and all of the aforementioned sheet metal, but essentially it's the same truck. My plan had always been to cab swap this thing with a swept-line style cab like this one. As you can see, I've got a few of those around. However, I decided quite some time ago that that probably wasn't ever going to happen, especially because the AC in the Ram truck works, and I don't want to disturb any of that. So what I'll probably do is backdate it with stuff like this, off of some kind of crappy donor truck I'll hopefully find in the future. I was very tempted to use this truck as a donor. Thankfully, Josh Jesh bought it before I could start unbolting things. Given my general tendency to leave things that work alone, I am inclined to just not do any of that and keep running this truck the way it is. Yeah, it's kind of ugly and beat. Yeah, it kind of looks like it's rolling from one trailer park to the next trailer park to pick up like a broken down Camaro or something. But I don't mind it. It's endearing. It's got character. What I do mind is the paint. It's kind of total garbage. And I'm not going to paint the truck. That would require fixing so much messed up stuff. No, I have another idea. If you've spent any time at all at car shows in the last several years, or if you've been on the internet, then you probably know that patina is hot. It's kind of like the look. You take a crappy beat old truck like this Apache And then you rub some magic on it to shine up what's left of the paint and even the surface rust. And there are all kinds of products available commercially to do this, like, for example, Poppy's Patina. Another one is the slightly more recently released Vice Grip Garage Shine Juice. And that stuff works. It produces impressive results, frankly. But that means I'd have to buy something. I don't want to buy anything. Then I read on the internets about people preserving their patina with something called Penetrol. That name immediately sounded familiar. And the reason it sounded familiar is I found like 11 cans of it when I was cleaning out this shop. You see, the previous owner was a roofer and a painter by trade, and he saved up all kinds of random chemicals and paints and things. One of those things was a pile of Penetrol cans. So I figure if it works and it's free, it's the patina preserving fluid for me. Unfortunately, like clockwork, it just started raining, so I guess I'll be messing with this later. The last big trip I used this truck for was the Spokane trip when we brought home a Superbird. Not on the ramp truck. I brought home a friggin' LeBaron on the ramp truck. Anyway, I still haven't cleaned out the cab, so I guess I could do that. You may look at this truck and think, man, that thing's a total pile of garbage. And you're right, but it's still great because 12 valve Cummins. It even cranks with the key sometimes. Recycled like 20 bottles. Time for another detail job, and I'm putting detail job in quotes. Yeah, it turns all shiny when it's wet. The idea with Penetrol is it'll just be that all the time. Because I'm the world's least patient man, or at least in the top 5, I'm gonna go ahead and try and sneak some product onto this thing in between rain showers. What's the worst that could happen? It smells like something I've used before, but I can't place it. I don't know if it was lacquer or what. Anyway, well, it's shiny. Obviously, I'm testing the roof, so if it looks terrible, no one will ever know. Except for everyone that sees this video, that is. Now, I'm told you can actually apply 2 coats, and that might help. You gotta let the first one dry down, and, well, drying down is gonna be a problem today. It doesn't take much of this stuff. That's a lot. I'm told straight lines are the better move than circles, you know, the whole wax on, wax off technique, so that's what I'm doing. Absolutely smells like something. Looks pretty streaky in the camera. It's hard to catch that in real life. Apparently it works on plastic too. Wow. Nice. In an earlier video, I actually did buff this truck. It pretty much didn't do anything. There's just 0 life left in this paint, so I don't feel bad about covering it in random chemicals at all. Did you know this is actually an original white truck? Now what I'm really doing here is testing this. If it turns out nice on the truck, really good chance I do the same thing on the 55 Imperial. I could also have it buffed, or buff it myself, which historically hasn't worked very well. I don't know, this might be the move, as the kids are saying. So far I like it. It's not like it's amazingly glossy or anything, it's just better. Hopefully a second coat will improve things some more. The hood's got a pretty awesome patina flavor. So what does the sauce do to that? Good stuff, kinda. This is the real reason I wanted to do this. I want to protect these rusty areas a little bit. Penetrol is supposed to do that. So we'll see how it works. Yeah, it smells like bringing back a memory from childhood of accidentally pouring a random can of goop all over something, I think. Obviously, I'm using a microfiber. Seems to work well enough. Trying to get it even is a little tricky. I'm not quite tall enough for this. Oh, in case you were wondering, no, I didn't wash the truck first. That's ridiculous. Wow, it's slightly better. I finished the roof, the hood, and the driver's side, and now it's raining, so that's good. Okay, it definitely looks better than the passenger side, but then it always kind of did. It's certainly better than it was. There's no denying that. Pretty cool. Hashtag Transformation Tuesday or whatever. All right, yeah, it definitely looks better. No question. Got another rain break, so I got the bad side done. Yeah, there's a bunch of missing paint and weird spots and stuff. It's better. You know, when I buffed the truck, the driver's side kind of, sort of did something. This passenger side never had any shine, but now it does. Nice. In fact, that area right there is about the nicest on the truck, I think. I even kind of sort of hit some of the headache rack, although frankly, I can't be bothered. I did get that strip above the bumper, below the grill. That's very important. Well, 4 out of 5 ain't bad. Oh, dang it. Yay. Suddenly my arms are all itchy. I don't know if it's like mosquitoes or if I somehow covered myself in Penetrol, but I don't like it. I got a lot more stuff on the list, but pretty much out of time for today. So we'll get back to that later. Oh yeah, looking kind of okay. I guess this is what happens when it rains on your Penetrol or whatever it's called, and it hasn't actually dried yet. So I'll be redoing that twice, and then hopefully it'll look good. In case you've ever looked at this truck and wondered why the heck my ramp bed is only half ramp, this is why. Because sometimes it's nice to have a flat bed. Second coat, second coated. We'll see what that looks like when it dries down. You know, it's way more red, but it's certainly not super shiny or anything like that. Hey, it's not amazing or brand new or anything, but it does kind of look like someone gives a crap about it now. Oh yeah, it's all coming together. Well, it's days later, and the second coat of the Magic Slick Sauce has had a chance to level out and dry or whatever, and it's looking pretty good. The best spot is actually right here on the roof and side of the cab, and I think that's because it's the first spot I hit and it was a heavy coat. So it's very shiny, but of course you can see a texture in it. That paint is terrible and it's slowly removing itself. It's easy to find the spots I missed, I'll tell you that. Most of that got 1 coat, but not 2. I really like the way it brought out details like this primer. It darkened it, and it really sets it off against the red. That gives it a sweet flavor. Also, I hit the lights with Penetrol, and they look way better. They were super chalky before. What I'm really hoping it does is kind of arrests this surface rust as we're getting into the rainy part of the year. That staining wasn't visible at all after I buffed the truck. We'll see how it holds up. If I have to go in and like sand this more later, I'll do that. The second nicest piece is that strip between the bumper and the grill, and I'm good with that. Oh look, another spot I missed. Nice. Obviously I'm not an expert, and you can see the lines and the pattern where I applied the stuff. Using way more probably would have been an asset. Compare this to when I first started with this truck, when it was still like faded to chalky orange. This is worlds better. The ramp truck. It's doing ramp truck things once again. Took the Demon out to Bremerton for one last time this year, which was great. Put down its best time ever, at least in my care. We actually somehow managed to snap a strap in this position. It wasn't a nice heavy duty one like this, that makes sense. And also the grab line I used for the winch, which is highly inconvenient. Now the hook is just barely sitting on the K-frame, which is bad. This has further illustrated the need for better tie-down points and equipment. Between the 2 coats of Penetrol, I got the truck muddy, so look at this. This was hit with 1 coat. This was hit with 2 coats. Look how much shinier it is. Yay! Beautiful. Just beautiful. Damn! I lost a UPS. I'm definitely not driving down the road with 2 small children on the truck. I wouldn't do that. Push bumper grill guard thing. This unit came with the truck, and I've always wanted to put it back on there. You could tell it was on there previously. The plastics are cut out for it. The hardware is all wrong. But for whatever reason, they pulled it off. It's clearly been slightly damaged, but that's okay. Although you can push things with those, you know, if you really have to. I like the idea of having that tall push bar on there. It could have all kinds of uses in the future. It also looks cool, so obviously that's important. Anyway, my conundrum the whole time is, how do I mount this thing back on the truck, and how do I do it without killing myself? I only just realized today when I rolled it over on the ground like this, you can just take it apart. So I'm gonna start with that. Hey, how cut apart and welded back together should this bumper bracket be? Just wondering. You know, I've never had much luck straightening bent bumpers, but it turns out, if you get a big enough hammer, it can be done. And now I can actually mount that thing. Oh, you should have heard the swears. And it's only gonna get worse because that carriage bolt is not coming out. Huh, I actually got it somehow. Okay, it's somehow even more crooked than it was, but it's something. Farm jack or high lift or whatever you wanna call it to the rescue. You had to find somewhere on the truck to mount that. Straight enough. Ta-da! Grill guard, push bar thingy, reinstalled. It's not, you know, perfectly straight or anything. Because of all the angles, I think it actually looks worse than it is when you look at it off as straight. It's fine. I mean, nothing else on this truck is straight anyway. Spare tire. This can be a good thing to have, especially on a hauler, because if you lose a tire in the middle of nowhere, you're going to have a bad time. With a car on the back, well, it's kind of even worse. So I'd really like to be carrying one of these. On the big Tennessee trip, I ratchet strapped that on top of the ramps. Let me tell you what a humongous pain getting to that is when there's a car here. For the last hour, I've been trying to scheme a way to get it right here. The thing is, it's too tall to stand vertical. It ends up like that far off the ground, even if I wedge it up inside the flatbed. And it's too tall to sit horizontal as well. It would stick out like that far past the edge of the flatbed. And that just doesn't work for me. One idea I had was to mount it at an angle, kind of wedged in there, and I could come up with some kind of carrier. It would be supported this way. It would have a bolt or two that hold it that way, maybe a strap for extra security. But that takes up like most of this space, and I kind of want to put another box over here. Maybe a toolbox, maybe another crap catcher. I don't know, but I don't really want the tire here. I thought about strapping it up underneath here, just like factory trucks have under the bed, but the thing is, I still need to come up with somewhere to stash the ramps long term, and I think they might end up right here. Obviously right here would be better, but it would be a little more complicated to build. This would be pretty easy. So that brings me back to my previous idea before the road trip. I was planning to put cross supports on the ends of the frame rails there and set the tire here, but leave a gap so these ramps can come in and out. If you'll recall, I got the bed built and I kind of just left all this ugliness. I had planned to deal with it eventually. I guess eventually is now. All right, I'm gonna try not to yaw my airlines off. Oh, come on, bastards. When cutting doesn't quite get it, metal fatigue will, eventually. Okay. Oh, this sucks. There we go. Nice. Well, the good news is all that mess is cleaned up. The bad news is I'd have to take a serious chunk out of the back of the bed there to get the tire in far enough to clear the winch line in cars as they come up. So that's a bust. See, it's got to be 2 inches higher than that, and it's already touching, so yeah, I'd have to like section that whole thing out, scoot it that way. Okay, so this doesn't work. Also, a dog peed on my tire. Okay, I've been staring at this and hacking and huffing dust for way too long, and I've gotten nowhere. So I'm shifting gears. Recall, this thing does not have a working speedometer. It actually did work when I first got the truck until I installed a new battery and redid the cables up here. You may or may not know this, but this truck has what you might call electrical issues. There are cut wires, melted wires, burned wires, random butt spliced wires, all kinds of great things. The PCM in this truck from the factory controls the grid heaters, the overdrive, alternator charging, air conditioning, etc. Currently, it controls nothing at all. It was kind of sort of working when I got it, and I know that because occasionally the wait to start light would be lit up and the water and fuel light. Now all of that stuff is totally dead. It died at the same time the speedometer died, so that kind of makes sense. The PCM and the speedometer use the same vehicle speed sensor reading. They share it. On this truck, it's a 2-wire sensor. It uses a ground and then a signal output, and it's that output that is split. But the ground, that happens through the computer. And as mentioned, the computer's totally dead. So I don't actually know what happened there, but I do know that it was grounded and now it's not. Rather conveniently, these wiring harnesses are already torn open. So I've got right here the 2 speed sensor wires coming up from the transmission. Here's the signal, and here is the ground side. Now right here, I've got the wire going into the dash. Is it that one? No, that's pink. That's brake. It's in here somewhere. Anyway, I already found it. So what I'm gonna do is snip this, snip that, join them together, and ground this wire. Then I'm gonna test it. And if I've got a speedometer, I'll make those connections permanent. Not today, but someday soon. I'm gonna eliminate this entire PCM harness nightmare and simplify all this. That'll add a push button for the grid heaters, and this truck might actually cold start this winter, which would be nice. All right, I made an executive decision and did this. Spare tire hanger, done. Still needs some welding and some paint. All right, obviously the strapping system leaves something to be desired. More on that later. I'm out of time for this. Did I mention I made that thing out of chunks of 2 bed frames? It works! It's working! mind me just taking my pile of bricks for a drive. Huh. Horse poop. Anyway, I gotta level with you. This is not as big of an overhaul, makeover, beautiful restoration project video as I had in mind. The list of other things I was hoping to get done is quite long. For example, tie-down points. I need to move those, even though I backed them with plates. Yeah, that's not trustworthy. So those are gonna come out here to the rail. I'm gonna add extra ones so I can do things like this. I wanna get that battery in a box under the truck instead of just having it sit on the bed, because that's very silly. I'm gonna move this strap box under the bed, as I had always intended to do, because it's taking up valuable real estate here. I'm gonna remove my demon placard, cut a hole, move the winch that way on a bigger, heavier plate, and that way I have that much more winch line to deal with when I'm loading cars, which would be really helpful. Also, it'll be partially protected from the elements. This thing isn't even 4 months old, but it already looks like this. The corrosion just wipes out these Traveler winch controller sockets, and I don't want that to happen on this one. Haven't finished the spare carrier at all. I actually have a really smart idea that involves tapering these legs in farther so that it'll fit up and then wedge down into it. And then the strap is just for extra security. That'd be pretty cool. And then obviously paint. I have a toolbox I want to put right here, although I'm not sure it'll fit anymore. So I may need to tweak the tire carrier mounting anyway and, drill more holes in the bed. I really want to refinish the wood on the bed. I had intended to do that from the get-go, but, well, I was in a hurry. So with all that stuff out of the way, that'll be the perfect time to do it. I'm going to taper this entire area where my headers hit, especially that lip needs to go. I may even recess this section of the framing and take a chunk of the bed out there or have a removable plate, something like that. But this is the biggest issue loading cars off and on, and I'd like to fix that. Ramp carriers, reverse lights, those would be nice. Loading lights right here in that back panel. Off-road lights, headlights that don't flicker terribly. Straightening out that grill guard because it really is pretty terrible actually. These are all things on my wish list for the ramp truck. I just want to keep improving this thing until it's perfect. And it'll never be perfect, so I'm going to be improving it for a long time to come. This truck is a lifer for me. It's not going anywhere, and bit by bit, I'm going to make it exactly what I want. To that end, I've finally struck a deal with someone to put a shifter right here, as I've always intended to do. This automatic transmission is on borrowed time, and I need to make that happen. So, the 3-pedal solution is going to be coming soon. And then a Dana 80 rear axle is going to happen. And it'll be wider, because it's not from one of these goofy cabin chassis trucks, which means I can finally get airbags on here. And that'll help for things like carrying around 3,500 pounds of bricks. Overall, I'm just going to keep chipping away at this truck until it's the perfect Swiss Army knife. Until it can do every job I need it to do, and we're getting there. Until then, it's still a perfectly serviceable truck, and I love that. I use the crap out of this thing, and the better it gets, the more I enjoy it. So that's it on the Ram truck for now, but look forward to major mechanical stuff coming in the near future. Can't tell you how excited I am for that. Until then, thank you very much for watching. And remember, if it ain't broke, don't make it broker.